Twin brother had an affair with my girlfriend and outed me as bisexual, so I let him die. My twin brother Sebastian and I have never been close. In fact, he is the person I hate most. He made my childhood a living hell. My parents didn't help by playing favorites. He would always put down, belittle, and bully me with his friends at school. He would break my stuff, then blame me for it. Growing up, the only people I knew I could rely on were my older sister Jane, my cousin Kai, and best friend Isaac, who all knew what an awful person my brother was. Cut to many years later. I was 17. I had just gotten my first girlfriend. She was someone I loved very much. We didn't have fun time because she wanted to wait until her 18th birthday to lose her innocence. Well, it turned out she was lying about lots of things, and one of those things was being loyal. She had been having an affair with my brother behind my back for 5 months. I was crushed. She knew how much I hated my brother and she saw some of the awful things he did to me, but she still cheated on me. Being unfaithful was bad enough, but with him? Things were going to get wicked. I punched Sebastian in the face so hard he lost his left front tooth and broke his nose. According to my parents, I was the one in the wrong here. Rather than be mad at my brother, I was expected to support him and my ex-girlfriend, who was now carrying his baby. My brother said he had no intention of being a father, and told my girlfriend to get an abortion. She refused, and skipped town, not wanting anything to do with my brother. A year went by like a flash, but my feelings for my brother never changed. I still hated his guts. At this point, I was done playing nice with him. I cut contact and didn't speak with him for a while. Around that time, I had gotten back into dating, and had met this wonderful man. He was great, and his name was Daniel. He was deaf, and previously I had happened to learn sign language out of boredom. We started talking and things just seemed to click. We dated, fell in love, and I brought him to Isaac's place since he was the only other person that knew I was bi at the time. They got along great and everything seemed to be looking up. One day, while walking into a cinema holding my boyfriend's hand, I bumped into Sebastian. He asked what I was doing there, and when I told him I was on a date, he laughed. In the middle of the theater, and made some homophobic comments. I told him to go screw himself and we went to go see our movie. When I got home after dropping Daniel off at home, I knew I'd be facing something as soon as I walked in the front door. I saw both my parents on the sofa, my mother crying about how on earth could she have given birth to someone so disgusting. I guess it was too much to hope she was talking about Sebastian, but nope. She was talking about me, saying I had left a stain on their family name. My father got up to yell at me, and spouted homophobic remarks and slurs at me. It was at this point that I saw my brother sitting on the staircase with a crap-eating grin. He then came down and said he wasn't comfortable sharing a room with a homosexual. Husband's perspective, I found a note from the man who my wife cheated on me with. I'm now divorcing her. I'm heartbroken because of what I just found, but at the same time very grateful for the clever and honorable man she decided to cheat on me with. I came back from a business trip a couple days ago and at first everything was great, except for one thing that was a little suspicious. My wife was doting on me like crazy. She was going out of her way to cook every meal for me and was overall treating me very well. I found this a bit suspicious, but wasn't going to complain, as she told me she just really missed me. I would later figure out this wasn't the case. Like I said, my wife was treating me very well, our intimacy life included, which is what ultimately led me to find the note. We were having intimacy one night and she was putting high effort into it, which I again found suspicious as she didn't usually do the things she was doing, even after times we had been separated for longer. After we were done, I went into the bathroom right next to our bed, that only she usually uses, to take a leak. And like I said, what I found truly left me heartbroken. As I lifted the seat to pee, I saw a sticky note with writing on it underneath the seat. I thought this was strange and peeled it off to read it. As I did, I began to tear up, as it was from a man explaining that my wife had just cheated on me with him, and how he was very sorry. I couldn't believe what I had just found. My body was shaking as the realization sunk in. It came together as to why she had been treating me so well. She felt guilty about what she had done. I confronted her about it, of course. She initially denied it, but when I told her the guy left a note under her toilet seat explaining what happened, she just became quiet. I really thought this was going to be the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with. It hurt so much. Tears were running down my face as I packed up all my stuff and told her, I'm divorcing her. She began to cry and beg for forgiveness, wanting me to give her another chance, but as I saw it, what she did was unforgivable. I recently moved out and have gotten over the initial shock. I wanted to post this to see if this reaches the guy who wrote it. If it does, I really appreciate it, brother. You did the right thing. Edit, for those of you telling me the guy also made a post about the situation, I saw it, and we've DM'd each other.
Girlfriend laughed when I proposed to her, so I laughed as I made her homeless. My girlfriend Rachel and I started dating when we met in high school. She was a sweet girl, but she had a lot of problems at home. Her mother had died when she was 10 and she never knew her father. She was unhappy, so my family offered to let her live with us. She and I live together in our finished basement. Now, me and Rachel have been together for 7 years, and I knew that it was finally time to propose. I was working in a grocery store. They had just promoted me to manager. I knew that Rachel liked the finer things in life and I worked really hard to keep her happy, so I saved my money. But whenever I could, I would spend it to take her to nice restaurants and buy her things she liked. I didn't have much money for a ring, but I bought the best thing I could find. I figured I would get her a nicer one when we had more money. I was sure she would understand. I dressed in my best suit. I took her out to a fancy restaurant that she had wanted to go to for a long time. A few minutes after we were seated, I told Rachel to order whatever she wanted, no matter how expensive it is. When it was the perfect time, I got down on one knee, looked at her in the eyes, and asked her to marry me. When I busted out with a ring, Rachel started laughing. I was so excited, she was laughing and was so happy because I finally proposed to her after 7 years. But, she just kept laughing and laughing, tears were coming out of her eyes. I asked her why she was laughing, but she couldn't answer me because she was laughing so hard. Now I was a bit confused, but I went on with it. She saw that I was looking at her wondering what was going on. She finally calmed down enough to tell me what was so funny. She said the diamond is so tiny, and it is impossible to see it without a microscope. Then she looked at me and said that she would never marry a man that would disrespect her like that. She called me broke and a lazy grocery store employee. Then she started laughing even harder. To make things worse, everyone in the restaurant was looking at us and laughing too. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I knew Rachel had expensive taste, but I thought she loved me. I walked out of the restaurant. I had never been more humiliated in my life. I went in my car and left without Rachel. When I got home, the first thing I did was take Rachel's things and throw them out the window. I didn't want to have anything to do with her. When she got back, she asked me what was going on.
I asked her about the flowers, and she said a guy she's been seeing gave them to her today. She said she didn't want to leave them in the car, so she brought them inside. When I asked her about the guy that she was seeing, she said he was from school and wasn't sure if it was going anywhere. After that, I went upstairs to see if my husband left his phone in the bedroom before getting in the shower, and sure enough, he left his phone on the dresser. The newest text message was from Ella that read, "Your wife is home." I tried looking up the deleted messages on his phone, but they had been permanently deleted. I decided to wait in our bedroom until my husband was done showering, and when he did come out, he was surprised to see me. I told him my 6:30 showing got cancelled and just got home. Then, I tried to see if he wanted to smash to see how he would react, and he said he didn't feel comfortable doing it while Ella was in the house. At this point, Ella was upstairs in my younger son's room, which shares a wall with our room. She ended up leaving the house at 6 p.m. with the flowers. After dinner, my husband mentioned to me about buying Ella a new car for Christmas, and his reasoning was that her car was old and not safe for our kids to ride in. All I told him was that I would think about it. I'm considering firing her on Monday without telling my husband and seeing how they both react. I'm still trying to process everything going on. I'm still hoping all of this is just me overthinking. I really love my husband, and I can't stand the thought of our beautiful family splitting up. Relevant comments. To me, the car purchase suggestion was the fishiest thing of all. Ella's family is not a family of means, but she now has a new iPhone, new clothes, jewelry, and shoes. I didn't put it all together until my husband suggested buying her a brand new car. We share a bank account for bills, but we also both have separate accounts. Also, I just remembered that last week my husband came home with a new jacket. He told me that he liked it, so he bought it, but my husband never buys clothes for himself. There's no reason to be coming in heels and all dressed up to babysit 2 toddlers if there wasn't something else going on. I 100% agree with this. When she first started, she would come in baggy clothing, but now she comes in dresses or skirts. My husband likes my nails white, and now Ella has white nails too. She also went from sneakers to sandal heels. My husband has a thing for feet, so the heels are really messing with my head. Update 3. I would like to thank everyone for their support and ideas on how to deal with this situation. Yesterday morning, I met up with Ella and told her that we wouldn't be needing her services anymore due to my little sister being available to watch the kids, which is true by the way. She quietly said that she understood and told me to let her know if I would change my mind. My husband called me 5 minutes later, sounding very upset about Ella being fired. I think Ella told him, but he claimed her dad told him we had just fired her. I said that was my final decision, and there was no changing it. He came home 20 minutes later and asked me why I didn't talk to him first about firing her. I told him about everything I've noticed between them, from the text to the clothing she started to wear. He denied everything and said it was all in my head. I told him if he wanted this marriage not to end in a divorce, he had to cut all contact with Ella. After 1 hour of arguing, he finally agreed not to contact her anymore. I honestly don't have the mental energy to deal with a divorce, split my kids, and date again. I don't want to be the single mom who is always busy and unhappy. I told him never to bring her up again. I don't know 100% if they had an affair, but I think it's better for my health not to find out. I think I'm going to quit my job so I can raise my kids and work on my marriage. I'm not sure if this was all because I've been working a lot of hours and have been distant from my husband. Thanks again for all the support. My husband thinks I don't know he's been slamming the babysitter, and I'm going to catch them in the act. My husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 4. We have 2 children, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Both of us work full-time. I'm a realtor, and my husband owns his own business. We've had a number of different nannies in the past, but they didn't pan out, and sometimes our parents end up watching the kids. About 8 months ago, my husband told me that one of his friend's daughters, we'll call her Ella, 20F, was looking for a part-time job during college. We live in a small college town, so her commute wouldn't be too troublesome if she were to come over. We tried her out one night, and everything went smoothly. She has always been nice to me, and the kids love her. My suspicion started last month when I came home early to find my husband had been home, and Ella was still at the house babysitting. I asked my husband why he didn't send her home if he was home, and his response was, "She's just trying to make a little money, and the kids were having fun, so I didn't send her off." Then, 2 weeks ago, I drove past my husband's office on the way to a meeting, and Ella's car was parked there. I asked my husband later about what she was doing at the office, and he said that she was probably stopping by to see her dad. Nowadays, whenever I come home, Ella is always dressed up more with makeup done and heels on. 2 days ago, I found strands of blonde hair in the back seat of my husband's truck. I have blonde hair, but this was closer to Ella's shade. Also, I don't think my husband would do anything in the back seat since he's 6'6", 240 pounds. Last night, I found the opportunity to check my husband's phone while he was with the kids. I didn't find any romantic text between them, but I could definitely tell that text messages had been deleted. If you read the conversation, it didn't make sense because it was obviously missing the middle part. I talked to my friend this morning, and she pointed out that my husband has a type, which is blonde women, and Ella falls perfectly into that category. Should I confront him right now, or should I wait to find something more concrete? Update 1. Ella is currently at the house right now, and from what I can tell from Find My iPhone, my husband is 30 minutes away heading home. They both think I'll be working until 7 p.m. today, but I'm going to walk in unannounced 15 minutes after my husband gets home. I'm not sure what the plan is if I catch them in the act. Unfortunately, I don't have access to his phone logs since his phone plan is through his business, but we do have cameras on the outside of the house and a baby monitor in the kids' bedroom. I'm not ready to fire her unless I get solid evidence of my husband cheating. I need to know if my husband is having any sort of romantic relationship with her first. Update 2. I wasn't able to get the concrete evidence I was looking for, but I found some more circumstantial evidence. When I was tracking my husband through Find My iPhone, he stopped on his way home at the grocery store for 10 minutes. I decided to park and wait on a side street so I could see when my husband would get home. He arrived home at 5:30 p.m., and Ella was scheduled to work until 6 p.m. We have a long gravel driveway that leads to our house, so I decided to park near our barn so I wouldn't be heard pulling up to the house. I walked through the front door and found Ella feeding my 4-year-old. She was also preparing dinner in the kitchen. Today she was wearing a tight top, skirt, and platform heels. I asked if she knew where my husband was, and she replied, he was upstairs taking a shower. She then immediately went over to the living room to pick up her phone and send a text message to someone. Also in the living room were a fresh bouquet of flowers.
After all the truths came out, we hugged each other and cried our hearts out. We went for a week-long vacation in Florida and had a great time together. Laura and Lucas bonded with Amy and Mia, who is turning 8 this year. I couldn't be happier seeing all my family together. My children uploaded our group photos on social media, captioning them Happy Family. As soon as Susan saw those photographs, she called them up and berated them for their foolish behavior. She blamed them for betraying her by bonding with us. She texted me, threatening that she would not let me meet my children further if I did anything to turn them against her. I laughed at her hollow threats and continued with our vacations. After returning from the vacation, my children met with my relatives. My relatives happily hosted them, and I was delighted to see the old bonds rekindled. When they were about to leave, they promised to keep in touch, despite Susan's threats. They said that they felt suffocated to live in that house, and they would move back with me once they completed high school. I hugged them and bid goodbye. After going back, they confronted Susan about her evilness, but she turned the table around me, accusing me of manipulating them against her. It's been a few months since they returned, but we talk regularly. I hope to have them back with me. I'll update you if anything develops. Thanks a lot. Update 2. Hey all, I know it's been a long time since I have updated. There's been a lot of drama in the last 6 months after my first meeting with my children. 3 months ago, the impending court case with the logistic company got settled. Guess what? I got hefty compensation, not only for the accident but for the injustices in the first trial. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the initial trial. The logistics company whose truck rammed into my car manipulated the case and pinned the blame on me for the accident. Hence, I was not compensated at all. I appealed it again, at my wife's suggestion, and won this time. I gave the news to my children, and they were equally elated. They wanted to meet me, and I promised to have them back with me permanently. A month later, Susan showed up at my office. She held my hand and asked me for forgiveness. I was taken aback at her sudden sight. She admitted that after my accident, she turned desperate. She found that old man who wanted a sugar baby. I didn't know about all these terms until I googled it on that day. The man had a few horrible experiences with a younger woman who ran away with his money after a few months, so he decided to settle with a not-so-young sugar girl, Susan, who was 32 back then. Susan had 2 children, which served as a guarantee of her loyalty. The man had stated clearly that he would not marry her and instead keep her as the mistress because he didn't want to share the inheritance with my children. Susan agreed to his terms because he promised to feed and fund their education. I asked her why she didn't get a job. She said she had never worked and was unsure if she could earn a similar lifestyle, which her lover gave her for free. She kept saying that she did everything to protect the children's future. She stood on her grounds, saying the children would have grown in poverty if she didn't take that step. I got so annoyed at her nagging that I yelled at her, saying she could have at least given me a chance to bounce back. If she was so concerned about our children's future, she should have discussed that with me instead of jumping to conclusions and deserting me without any heads up. I clarified that I had moved on and her pleadings didn't matter. She recounted all those happy moments we shared, like our wedding day, the birth of our 2 children, etc. I shrugged her off, saying I was a different person now, and all those memories had faded away. They didn't mean anything to me. She crossed her lane by saying she and my children were my original family, not Amy and Mia. She said that Mia was not my daughter and that I could never have a proper family with Amy and Mia. I felt disgusted at her cruel mind. She insisted that I take her back so the real family could reunite. I made her clear that I love Amy and Mia, and they are my real family and not her. She refused to leave my office, creating a scene. She left only when I threatened her with the police. I went back home and narrated this to my mother and Amy. Amy was naturally distressed by this, but she is a mature woman and didn't make a deal out of it. My mother said that she never liked Susan because of her selfishness. Mom even said that Susan had returned to me only because of the money I had received after the court settlement. That woman is indeed a gold digger. When my children learned about their mother's behavior, they berated her and told her to stay in her lane. I'm not sure how her sugar daddy got to know about this incident, and he had threatened to throw her away if she tried to reach out to me next time. I couldn't be more thankful to him. The latest update is that my children are moving in with me this month. They would stay with us briefly before I put them in a nearby college. They wanted to enjoy their college life and stay at a hostel. I believe we should remain connected but, at the same time, give ourselves some space to know each other. The children have abandoned Susan, and in the end, she is left with nothing but her sugar daddy. I hope she gets to enjoy the sugar until it turns sour. Ha ha ha. How do I approach them? I'm super nervous and super excited. Update 1. Hi all, I have quite an update. I missed 2 critical pieces of information in my original post. First, about my current wife, Amy. Yes, I remarried a beautiful woman 5 years ago. Amy is an interior designer. I met her at an event where she was designing the wedding venue, and we were providing the flowers. I was yet to start my own company at that time. It wasn't love at first sight, but we vibed well. We kept meeting for such events in the next few months and became friends. She was a single mother of a 3-year-old daughter. The idea of starting the event management company was hers because she worked for one of the companies for many years and had the contacts and knowledge of the business. I partnered with her to launch the business. We dated for a year before getting married. Now we live as a happy family of 4, Amy, her daughter, Mia, my mother, and I. Her daughter was delighted to get a granny, and so was my mother. The second information was regarding accident compensation. I was hit by a speeding truck, so ideally, I should have been compensated by the logistics company owning the truck, but at that time, the company got away with paying nothing by manipulating the facts about the accident and pinning the blame on me. I could not hire a good lawyer back then, so I didn't get a penny. You know how big companies work. They pay in bombs to their attorneys to save their backs. After my marriage with Amy, she suggested I refile the case since we could afford a suitable lawyer. The case is still in court, but my lawyer has given us a positive hint that the judgment would come in our favor. Alright, coming back to my story. As I mentioned in my original post 3 months ago, my children were supposed to visit me after 12 years of my divorce. I was excited and nervous, but Amy calmed me down and supported me all this while. I went to pick them up from the airport. The elder one, Laura, is 15 now, and the younger one, Lucas, is 13. They have grown up to be beautiful and handsome teenagers. After the initial greetings, we ran short of conversations. It was awkward for all 3 of us. On our way to the house from the airport, I tried to break the ice and ask them about their school life and city. I deliberately skipped the conversation regarding their mother. They, too, didn't bring her up. The children were unusually silent or maybe looking for an opportunity to plug into their earphones, like any other teenager. Upon reaching home, we were welcomed by Amy. The children looked shocked as if they didn't anticipate this coming. I don't know why Amy was a surprise to them. When her mother could live with another man within months of our divorce, why can't I remarry? Amy had set up the guest room for the children. We had lunch together, and Amy laid out the vacation itinerary we had planned for the family. They gave a neutral reaction to everything. Neither were they excited nor did they dismiss the plan. Amy and I were confused by their mixed response. They locked themselves up in their room, and soon after that, I got a call from their mother, Susan, accusing me of tricking our children. She said I'd brought the children to my house so Amy and I could manipulate them. I felt disoriented by her behavior. She accused me of hiding the truth about my marriage. I wondered at her accusations. I hung up on her, but she persistently called me. I decided to address the elephant in the room. I called my children and asked them what was the matter. After the initial hesitance, they spoke up. They were mad at me because it was said to them that I had abandoned them. Susan had brainwashed the children against me and had filled their heads with all lies and deceit. I revealed to them the exact truth that it was not Elle. Their mother jumped to another man as soon as she got the opportunity. They were kids back then, yet they remember those incidents very well. I told them how Susan disappeared with them to the old man's house and how she had threatened and chased me away whenever I tried to contact them. I showed them the restraining letter and all my rejected pleadings I made to meet them. They were in tears and regretted believing in their mother's lies all these years. My younger son, Lucas, admitted that once, he tried to reach out to me on social media, but Susan caught him. She emotionally blackmailed him and took a promise from him that he would never contact me again. The children also admitted to having been rebuked by Susan's husband. Susan and the children were mistreated at the family gatherings because they were unmarried. Susan continued to stay as a mistress in his house. Although the man paid for their education, he was never a fatherly figure to them. My heart ached as I got to know about my children's adversity. He also admitted that he liked having complete control over his mother, and he saw James' arrival as a threat to the status quo, so he hatched a plan to get rid of him and told his other grandparents that he'd been assaulted by James. They understandably hit the roof and pointed out to him that he was almost 14 years old and was old enough to know that lies can have far-reaching consequences. They immediately marched him to the police station, where he tearfully withdrew his allegation and informed them that he'd invented the whole thing. He admitted that James had never laid a finger on him nor raised his voice or had shown any form of aggression towards him. The investigating officer severely reprimanded the boy and told him he would remember his name for future reference should they cross paths when he became an adult. Unfortunately, despite the lie being exposed, the college decided to terminate James' contract regardless, again citing safeguarding. He took them to a tribunal and won the case. He was in line for a hefty payout, but pleaded with them to let him continue to teach, and he dropped the whole thing. Sadly, they wouldn't see sense, and despite the compensation, his career went up in smoke. The students lost a fine lecturer, and the institution was poorer for no longer having such an asset as James. The father was indeed kicked out of the army and was also charged with assault, which is ironic considering this was the charge leveled at James, and was given a suspended sentence, which of course means he will carry that wherever he goes and has now struggled to find employment. The mother's parents were rightfully disgusted that their grandchild could do such a thing and cut him out of the will. This was bad news for the boy, as they are very wealthy business people, and he was looking forward to living off their fortune so that he didn't have to worry about minor inconveniences such as working for a living. They saw James how we all see him, a thoroughly decent person, who loved that woman and her son with all his heart. They were devastated that the selfish actions of her son had stolen her happiness, and robbed her of the man that they had always hoped that she would find. The grandparents on the other side, the ones who called the police, sought James out and apologized to him, which was decent of them. The relationship they now have with their former daughter-in-law is non-existent, as she resents them for not speaking to her in the first instance, which of course could have prevented the chain reaction that was about to follow. They hardly see their grandson anymore, as they were also disgusted by his lie and his selfishness. James, and this is probably an indication of the type of person he is, considered getting back with the mother, but realized that sometimes some things are just too broken to mend. She is a single mother again, and I have seen her in the street on occasion. She is devastated at what happened, and wished things were how they were. Unfortunately for her, she is unlikely to find anyone else anytime soon, as her name is radioactive to prospective partners due to her son's lie. She told me that she's been on a few dates since, but as soon as the guy hears what happened in her last relationship, they end it pretty much immediately. She told me she loves her son regardless, just hates the lie that he told, which is fair. James has found work as a personal tutor and is also a contributor to a few business journals. He's doing okay, but is still gutted about what happened. He feels that despite his innocence, he is not entirely without fault, that perhaps he shouldn't have been so affectionate to the mother when the boy was around, as it probably fueled his jealousy. Not a happy ending for anyone involved, and this all came about because of one teenager's lie.